we've lost the plot here, people. And truly, half of these dark romances don't even have a plot. So, over 6 feet tall, white man with tattoos, ooh, book talk. That's the line of thinking. Let's remember that this is real life. These are real victims that it happened to, and this is a real man. Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Is back talking about books. Today we are not going to be talking about a specific book, but we are going to be talking about book talk, the book community as a whole, and dark romances, and where that has led us in our path as readers, okay, and where that has led us in society. Okay, it's a video essay time. Dark romance. Where do we draw the line? This video is gonna be about how dark romance has truly skewed our perception of reality. I saw this Stephanie Sue video about a very popular case. I will link the video down below. After watching this video around 3 weeks ago, I was reading the comments and I found this specific comment and it inspired me to make this video. Please watch her video for context, the Rotten Mango video, but this is the comment. But this. How many movies, series, or drama, novels always romanticize toxic relationship until it's blurred your own morality? I couldn't agree more. I've said this in so many other of my past videos on fantasy versus romanticizing, trying to create borders in our head of what we deem acceptable for society and what we read as a fantasy. Where do we draw the line? That was part one of what inspired me to make this video. The second thing that inspired me to make this video on this topic is I started the Rena Kent books. If you haven't heard of who Rena Kent is, she is a dark romance author. She is really popular on TikTok. A lot of people talk about her books. They are very smutty books. They are very sexual books. And if you want to read a little bit of smut, then people read her books. I didn't know to the extent of the dark romances in the books, but I decided, hey, I'm ovulating. Let me open up a Rena Kent book and see what I get. Foreshadowing. I was aghast. I was shocked. I was taken aback because I opened up God of Malice, which is the first Rena Kent book in that series. The first 3 chapters. And I was already horrified because she literally gets by the protagonist. Now from here on out, if you have any triggers with sexual assault, with anything to do with sexual violence, please stop the video here. Have a good day. Have a good dinner. I'll catch you in the next one, okay? But we are going to be talking about these topics throughout this video because it is about dark romance. Chapter 2 or 3, she gets R-worded by the protagonist of the book. I haven't read the whole book. I've only read the first three chapters, right? But 99% sure that the guy who did that to her is the protagonist of the book. And no way in hell that he does that and they're able to justify that behavior by the end of the book. I call bluff. I don't believe it. That's all there is to it. I usually don't get triggered really by books at all, by tough topics at all. I've read Haunting Adeline. I've read really hard scenes. I've read A Little Life, and yeah, it's really sad. I get really emotional at a lot of different books, at a lot of different types of scenes, at gory things, but I will read it. Okay, I love getting emotional. I love reading darker topics, but this book triggered me. It didn't just trigger me, it set off my fight or flight, okay? Never in my life have I been triggered so much by a scene than that one. I was like, no, I gotta close this book. That's crazy. That is insane that that happens in the first 3 chapters of this book. Is this the smutty scene we're supposed to be feeling some type of way about? Because that did not make me feel some type of way. After the scene happens, she's traumatized by it. Literally thinks to herself, should I call the police? Should I tell my family? No, I don't want to tell my family because I don't want them to worry about me. And she goes through the entire cycle of what a victim may go through after an event like that happens to them. And on top of that, this is how unhinged the beginning of this book is. She is about to self-exit, I will say it in those terms, off of a cliff. As she is about to make the jump, she feels a hand grab her. It is the main protagonist. He grabs her halfway off the cliff and pulls her from her near death. That flips a switch in her head. Oh my God, maybe I don't want to die, I want to live. She tells love interest, thank you for saving me, can you please pull me up? He's holding her at the edge of the cliff. What are you gonna give me in return? She goes, hello, can you just please pull me up? No, what are you gonna give me in return? I can toss you off the side of the cliff right now. if I wanted to. She goes, okay, I don't want to die. What do you want? This is very triggering for me, okay? But you're gonna hear it. This is only the first 3 chapters. Suck my d. I'm sorry, what? Oh, you want to fall off the edge of the cliff? No? Then. And that's how the beginning of the scene starts. There's no this, that, and the third about it. That is straight up coercion. That is straight up, that's what happens in the beginning of the book. Closed the book, or closed my Kindle, turned off my Kindle, and said, I think I'm done for the day. I think I'm done for the day. After finishing those 3 chapters, I thought to myself, in what world is this getting published? In what world are we promoting this on a public website like TikTok, where, mind you, children also read. And children also easily find these books and start reading these books too. How did we get to this point, and how are we actually truly romanticizing this behavior? Maybe you have a kink. Maybe you have a fantasy. This is my own opinion. You may have a differing opinion, but I just don't think a published book is where that kind of fantasy should go. Because first of all, it's not legal. So we shouldn't be actively promoting it to a wider audience. And secondly, I truly think it should stay on the sites that those things were made for. We have things like Wattpad, fanfiction.net, AO3 that literally spell out for you, at least not in Wattpad, at least with AO3, spell out for you different kinks and different specific tags that you may want to read, and they filter it out for you because that fantasy is a niche. And having it in a published book like this and having people promote it on TikTok truly doesn't spell fantasy to me. It spells romanticization. It spells we find this to be acceptable in modern society because it is in a book that is out there for everybody to consume. We are setting a precedent that we find that behavior okay. That is where I draw the line on fantasy and romanticization. It's also one thing to fantasize about this, right? But now that it's gone into mainstream media and so many people are reading this, it's gotten to a point where maybe we'll read one smutty book, you get a little desensitized to those scenes. So you need something a little bit more. You get a little more desensitized. You need something more extreme. You read Haunting Adeline, then you get to even more extreme, and now you are at Rena Kent literally romanticizing in the first 3 chapters of the book in the series. The way that this kind of thinking can happen so easily for people, it's how people also get drawn into addiction to porn. How many books, how much media showing us these images, showing us these ideas will it take for this dark behavior of fantasizing about it for it to skew our realities? It's really scary because it's coming from a woman's perspective. What happens if someone else who reads it? What happens if someone who's a man reads it and thinks, wow, women love this? Oh yeah. And then end up feeling like they are justified in acting on the things that women read and then performing that behavior in real life. I don't think that's that far off, to be honest. Transitioning over to a real life murder that happened and took book talk by storm. And this is the Stephanie Sue case that I was talking about that I also have linked below. By now, maybe you've watched that whole episode. She explains the situation of the case so entirely well. If you don't know it and if you haven't watched it, I will summarize it here for you. There was a man named Wade Wilson. I think they nicknamed him Deadpool because of his name. Stupid name, by the way. Like, I hate it. I literally, like, if you understand the context of the case, he's so disgusting and gross. This man named Wade Wilson killed 2 women, I believe in the span of a few days, if not a week. One of those crimes was sexually motivated. So one of the women he met at a bar went home with him. I think they had a little party or get together, and then later on that night she's strangled and also killed. I don't know exactly the way that she died. Very, very soon after that, he kills another woman, an older woman, runs over her back and forth, back and forth until she is no longer. I don't know how else to say it. Truly, it's really horrible what he did. Why would you do that? Only someone horrible could do that. And let me say, everything I'm saying right now, alleged, all alleged, because I don't know how laws work. I don't know YouTube algorithm. Like, this is a public video, right? So I don't want to say any false information. So everything's alleged. Mind you, this man, Wade Wilson, is a ginormous guy, so it's hard to overpower him. He's over 6 feet tall, a white man, and during the trial, the clips that people were seeing all over TikTok of him during the trial, he was covered in tattoos. Face tattoos, body tattoos, wearing a tux, I believe. Because of that, I can see how certain parts of Book Talk were intrigued. Because the way that he looked is 99% of all dark romance protagonists, straight up, that is what they look like. They're described, first of all, they're all for some reason white, because we're not going to talk about how people of color are not represented in romance books that much, but it's getting better nowadays, but like, that's one thing, right? But secondly, he's over 6 feet tall. Over 6 feet tall? White man with tattoos? Ooh! Book Talk. Straight up, that's the line of thinking. Let's remember that this is real life. These are real victims, 2 of them that it happened to, and this is a real man, and he killed real people. And when this case was gaining traction on TikTok, people were defending him, an actual murderer. He did the crime, there's no denying that, who is psycho, and he's evil, just because he's not conventionally ugly. To me, he's ugly. He's ugly as f, with his sticker, pasty, tacky face tattoos. Please, that's and I am not one to make fun of how anybody looks, ever. But if you're someone who kills in cold blood, I'm gonna go after everything that I can, okay? Truly, because your heart is rotten to the core, is probably non-existent. Once upon a time, or like Vampire Diaries, you stuff your hand in there and you take it out, there's nothing. It's air. Because his heart does not exist. Truly. And a lot of his tattoos, the face tattoos that people online were swooning him over, there were swastikas, there were white supremacist tattoos. I literally, how vile of a human being. And people were fantasizing about him, people were defending him, people were justifying him, people were in the comments saying, I can change him. He had a history of his exes. I believe in prison reform, I believe that people can change, but with the crimes that he committed and the victims out there, while the families are still grieving, to say this online where those victims' families can also see all of those comments, why are you giving so much sympathy to a murderer who treated these women like utter trash, and you are giving him so much benefit of the doubt without ever having grieved those victims, being sensitive to the families? Truly, what are we doing here? He had fan edits of him. Is this who we are as a community, as a book community? Is this what we represent? Because it's not what I want to be represented as. Please. To glorify these sexual acts, to idolize abuse towards women, I think it comes from all of these dark romances that we're reading, and we're not compartmentalizing, that's the word for it, compartmentalizing what we can fantasize about and what is a fantasy and what we are romanticizing. That is that fine line there. Don't get me wrong, I am not trying to hate on anybody's specific kinks. Whether you want to be a more traditional woman, whether you want to be more docile and want a more masculine man, a more dominant partner, have that fantasy, a foot fetish, any specific fetish, whatever it may be, all power to you, but those are fetishes for a reason. At least some of them, especially the ones that are illegal. That's all fine and dandy, but this is real life. The fact that people are saying I can change him while the trial is still going on, we've lost the plot here, people. We've lost the plot. And truly, half of these dark romances don't even have a plot. So, what we consume matters. And I am all for reading books and all for being really open about your sexuality. Way too much nowadays. Women are hated on for liking things. I mean, back in the day, we had Twilight and people hated on that. Back in the day, we had Barbie, people hated on that. All the things that women liked, even romance. People hate on romance, but I truly think it's because it is a woman-dominated genre that people don't hate on Star Wars. People don't hate on Marvel. Nowadays they do, but like people used to not hate on Marvel. A lot of the times, the things that women like, we are hated on for that. all for the mere fact because it's a thing that is widely loved by women. Like One Direction, like Taylor Swift. Maybe some of the things that we like have a lot of merit to them. And I truly think that romances, dark romances too, have a lot of merit to them, and there is a place for them in the book community. All this to say is messy is one thing, toxic is one thing. I love to read a toxic romance. I love to read a messy romance. I love to read guilty pleasures. I am all for relationships that are not all the way healthy because we love to read it. Why? Because of the drama. We love the drama. Who doesn't love drama? Like Love Island? Come on now. We love when it's messy, when there's complications, because it'd be boring if every romance we read had no complication and obstacles and it was just a healthy relationship and nothing happened and it was everybody communicating right and everything was fine and dandy. It would be boring. Cough cough, like King of Greed. Liking dark romance is a thing, but it seems like now we are using the word dark to encapsulate all of the things that we shouldn't be. Encapsulate male dominance, abusive relationships, culture. We have it published and spread to social media platforms and to wide audiences and broad audiences, and so now everyone thinks that it's just okay, when truly I don't think that it is. And we're just becoming so desensitized to this type of media, whether it be books, movies, or anything other than that. It's one thing to have, and I've said this in the past, dark romance and bad toxic behavior and fantasizing about that. Because dark romance, at least have the romance be romantic, okay? Because a protagonist in God of Malice literally getting by the main love interest of the book, where is the romance in that? Like, where? Because I've read so much dark romance. I can see how Haunting Adeline had a lot of issues. I've made my peace with that, right? I've made an entire video on Haunting Adeline and why I despise that book and did not like that book and all the issues with that and it being a dark romance. But I can see that the romantic part of the book is having someone so obsessed with you that they literally stalk you. That's kind of really dark. And I can see how that might be romantic, darker romance per se, and a gray area for that. You can agree to disagree with me on that one. That one's kind of like, I don't know. A dark romance can be my guiltiest pleasure, the maddest obsession. Literally my guiltiest pleasure, but I love that book with all my heart for some reason. A man who literally kills another man because he walked into the woman he loves apartment and he just boom, shot dead. That's jealousy trope on crack, but it's kind of romantic. Like, he's so in love with her that he just had to shoot this other guy. I can see how that might be romantic in a way. Forcing women into these subservient positions, forcing them, is not romantic. It is not dark romance. Dark romance might be two people going through really, really tough things, having so much trauma, them dealing with them in horrible ways, and coming together still. That's dark romance. You can talk about it in the comments below. I just think, all in all, my conclusion is that fantasy nowadays, I really think it should be subject to staying in platforms where they are niches, because those things are niche. And having it just open on a wide genre under the umbrella term dark romance has led to people becoming so desensitized to things that we should never, ever want in our real lives, especially as a majority women reading these novels, that it's gotten to a point where it has skewed our perception of reality. We are doing these things in our real lives, like saying I can change him, to a literal murderer, like sexualizing real live men that we probably don't even know. And there is a sort of part 2 that I want to do to this with books and parasocial relationship and that whole sort of thing, but that's going to be another video all entirely. I also have a third video that I want to do about God of Malice. Maybe I've made this entire video having not read God of Malice, and I could be totally wrong. Maybe that wasn't the main character. Maybe there was a really good reason why he literally raped her, just like in Manacled. In Manacled, it's different because, you know, they were forced into that position. Maybe I could be totally wrong. The book could prove me wrong, and it could be a really good book and a really actual dark romance. But I doubt it. But my goal for a second video idea is to do a deep dive on the book and to read that. That's my plan. No promises for that video because I don't know if I can get through it. I'm on chapter 4 right now. The writing is really killing me. It's killing my vibe. I can read bad writing, but that writing is really killing me right now. So no promises that a video will come out, but if it ever does, look out for a video within a year of this video coming out, maybe like next November. Hopefully and sometime between then there'll be a video on that. This is just all things and ideas that I've had in my head. I hope that I was able to articulate it in a way that made sense. Please, 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 this is honestly a subject that I've been thinking about for a long time. Please let me know what your thoughts are on this, your opinions, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if you think that maybe it's okay to have this romanticized, horrible culture behavior be out to wide audiences. Let me know. If you disagree with me that you don't think that it skews our perception of reality reading so many of this dark stuff, let me know that too, and give me your reasoning because I really want to know your opinions and I'm super open-minded about it, and please let me know everything. So change my mind. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts and I will catch you in the next one.